So, chayu is a herb which I've always had some kind of a interesting conversation with. And when Sharon asked me on what herb would you like to give a presentation on, I wasn't thinking twice. Chayu was my choice. And chayu is a herb that I used a lot in the clinic, and sometimes it really, saved my patient through COVID cases, uh, PTSD patients that suffer from severe exhaustion, all kinds of cases. But then again, there were sometimes cases where I saw that I gave chayu and suddenly patient had some headaches or suffer from insomnia. So it was quite clear to me that this is a herb that, you need to know how to use. It's not that simple. So I decided to dedicate this presentation mainly to chayu. I know that previous presentations also discussed about the formulas, and we will touch about it a little bit. But my main focus is on chayu, and what I want to do is I really ask those WH questions like a journalist has is, let's understand chayu as much as we can. So we're going to talk about the qualities of chayu. We're going to talk about what are the functions of chayu, what are the indications, mainly from a classical viewpoint. And we will discuss chayu in the circle of the 6 conformations. And we will discuss mainly when to use chayu, which I think is a really good question, because if you know how to use it wisely in the right time, then you get good results and there's no side effects. But if you choose it in the wrong patient, then you get side effects and then you're afraid to use it. So I think I really want to focus on these issues so we can really feel after this presentation that we have a better understanding of when to use it and when not to use it, or when to use it with other herbs to control chayu. We'll discuss what kind of person will benefit from chayu, and also how much chayu to use. And then I wanted to go to a place where I think nobody really likes to venture in. Is these are the controversies. Like chayu is a herb that people really disagreed upon. And there are 2 main controversies which I found. One is, does chayu raise the yang? And the second thing, does it plunder the yin? Okay, so these are the topic we'll discuss. I think it's going to take about an hour, a little bit more. And let's plunge right to it. And I just wanted to take a moment just to remind you that since I'm not going to talk about the formulas so much, there are great presentations in the White Pine Circle discussing Sini-san with Sally Rappaport, and Shannon Larson gave a good presentation about using chayu, and Caroline gave a presentation on chayu longumuli tang, and Sharon on longdang shegantan, and I gave a presentation long ago on chayu guizi ganjiang tang, and I also touched upon chayu xiao chayu tang. So once you go over this presentation, you're welcome to try to go there, because I think there you get an in-depth learning of the other formulas. So let's start. Chayu is a root of the Herpularium, and it actually, chai means firewood or twigs, and hu is a word that's often translated as foreign or barbarian. So the literal meaning of chayu is the foreign firewood or twigs from the West. And botanically, there are 2 types of chayu in China. One is called the Northern chayu, and forgive my Latin, it's Pulparium chinense. And the other one is Southern chayu, it's Pulparium scorzonophyllum. So the Northern chayu color is mainly dark brown. And if you look at the root head, it has a couple of branches and it's quite enlarged. And the roots themselves are thick and hard. That's the Northern chayu. While the Southern chayu, the roots are, let's start with the color, it's red-brown or black-brown. And you can see in the image, the root head is conical and has a single branch. And the roots themselves are soft and thin. And it's interesting, in China, the north usually is related to things which are tough and hard, and the south is soft and thin. And it's true also about chayu. And I read sources that the Northern chayu is more for severe patterns of Shaoyang, such as severe fever and acute presentations. And the Southern Chihu is more for liver qi stagnation and less acute situations. But the thing is that when you use Chihu, mainly if you use it as a granules, there isn't a distinction between these two. So we don't really know what we're using if it's granules. Maybe if you use raw, it's a different story. But since I use many granules, I don't really know what I'm using. So it doesn't really that matter. So when we discuss herbs, we always start with the Shenon Bancao Jing. It's Divine Farman's classic of Materia Medica. And this is a text that was compiled around the beginning of the 1st century. And I will put a lot of emphasis on this text because I'm going to come back and forth and relate to these lines because I think these lines are very important. And these lines contain the essence of the herb. And let's start. So the qi and flavor are bitter, neutral, and non-toxic. So notice the bitterness. It governs bound qi within the heart, abdomen, intestines, and stomach, food and drink, accumulations, and gatherings. So notice that it treats bound qi, like qi that is bound and stuck. And it treats accumulations and gatherings, again, all kinds of stagnations. And what's interesting is if we look at the organs that are mentioned here, it's a heart, abdomen, intestine, stomach. If you look at it, these are actually the organs along actually the Yang Ming tube, right? So it's interesting to notice that. And it also governs cold and heat evil qi. So this is the first time we're discussing this quality of Chihu that treats both cold and heat, or maybe alternating cold and heat. And then comes this line, it pushes out the old to bring forth the new. And this is, I consider, an important text, an important line, which we'll discuss later. And when taken over a long period of time, notice the long period, it lightens the body, brightens the eyes, and boosts the essence. So that's a herb that we can even consider as a tonifying herb because it boosts the essence. The next text I want to touch on is the Minyi Beilu, Supplementary Records of the Famous Physicians. And this was a text compiled by Tao Ho Jing in the 6th century. And he says that it's slightly cold and not toxic. Chihu governs cold damage accompanied by vexation and heat located below the heart. It treats various types of phlegm heat, knotting, and hardness. It addresses evil, rebellious qi in the chest. So notice this boldness I gave to the rebellious, because that's very important. It governs wandering qi between the 5 zang organs. So my interpretation of this wandering qi is like qi that wanders around like wind, which is what we learned later on in TCM, is that when we have a liver qi problem, qi moves around, right? We have this qi that is stuck in different places in the body. It treats accumulations and stagnation in the large intestine. So here, this idea of this Yang Ming organ being affected. It is used for water distension. It is indicated for damp impediment causing contractions and spasm, and can be used as a bath decoction. So if we take the two texts together, we can see that the common theme is it relieves qi stagnation, it's good for accumulation, and it's not toxic. But there are differences between the two texts. The Shenon Bancao Jing talks about bitterness and neutralness, about cold and heat, and a lot of focus on the qi, right? It's cold and evil qi, lightens the body and boosts the essence. While the Minyi Beilu focuses on that it's more cold and it's more water pathologies like phlegm heat, damp contraction. So these are distinctions, or maybe different aspects of this herb. But then comes the modern text of Bensky. And Bensky pictures a different herb almost. He mentioned it's bitter, but it's also acrid. The first time we see this indication of acrid. It treats alternating chills and fever, and we'll zoom in about this issue of alternating. Releases heat in the muscle layer. So what I find it's interesting is this word of releasing. Like suddenly Chihu has a releasing, and when we say release in Chinese medicine, usually it's an upwards movement. Harmonizes the lesser yang stage disorder, raises the clear qi. Suddenly, Chaihu is a herb that raises the qi, first time. And it relieves liver qi constraints. And then we have those warnings in red. Because this is a rising and dispersing herb, it should not be used when the true yin has been severely damaged or with hyperactivity of the liver yang. And this puts a lot of fear in us. So, I mean, what happened? I thought it was a herb that, is nourishing and is calming, and why all these dangers?